Hey, Brave Kids. It's me, Pastor Tara, and I am so pumped to share our lesson with you. In our story today, we're going to learn about someone who had to have courage even when she didn't know what was coming. So, I have a super fun game. I'm going to wear my blindfold, and my friend Avery is going to tell me how to walk through an obstacle course that I have never seen before.
All right, Pastor Tara, take 2 steps forward.
1, 2.
Take a step to the right.
1.
Take 2 steps forward, small steps.
1, 2.
Take a step to the left.
1,
Take another little step to the left.
1,
Take 2 steps forward.
1, 2.
You made it!
Yeah! That was so much fun. It's the last week in our series, and we discover the story of Esther in the book of Esther. Esther had no idea how God would use her when she was chosen to become the queen of Persia. But her cousin Mordecai reminded her that God put her in that role to rescue Jewish people from Haman's plot. Esther knew what could happen if the king didn't approve of her asking for his help. But she knew how much more was at stake for God's people if she didn't try. She found the courage to go to the king and ultimately saved her people. Remember, brave kids, you can do what you should even when you don't know what will happen. This is our last week of our worship song. Let's make this the most fun worship time yet. Let's stand up and give God our best moves.
When I wake up, I know that you are with me every step of the way. You're strong enough to handle any fear that I face. Even things that scare me, 'cause they seem too big. Even all the hard things that make me wanna quit. You're bigger than it all, and you're in charge of it. And I don't feel so worried when I look to you. When I look at how great you are, your kindness helps me believe that you are good, and with you I can do anything. Even things that scare me, 'cause they seem too big. Even all the hard things that make me wanna quit. You're bigger than it all, and you're in charge of it. And I don't feel so worried when I look to you, Jesus.
Welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about courage. While we take a look at the story of a girl who stood up for an entire nation. Oh, and we're also going here. Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're talking about courage.
That's being brave enough to do what you should do, even when you're afraid.
We all have to be brave sometimes, but some people have to be brave every day for their job.
People like bomb diffusers who have to take apart a bomb so it can't explode.
Or think of those ginormous skyscrapers full of tall glass windows. Someone has to clean all those windows hundreds of feet up.
Or pilots who test super fast new aircrafts to make sure they're safe.
These men and women prepare themselves to do hard things over and over.
God must give them like an extra dose of courage for breakfast every day. Can I get a sausage, egg, biscuit, and a mocha latte with 2 pumps of courage, please?
I don't think it works that way.
We should ask someone.
We're about to. Our guest today has faced some of the scariest situations you can imagine.
Brain surgery, algebra 3, calculus.
How about a burning building?
Wait, we get to talk to a real firefighter?
Absolutely. His name is Trey, and he spent 10 years working as a firefighter.
And I'm gonna zip it so we can get to the real deal.
Hey everyone!
Hi, Trey. We're so excited to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm like trying not to fanboy right now.
Same. So, did you always want to be a firefighter?
Actually, no. I had just finished school and a family friend had invited me to come check it out. And so I thought, well, while I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with my life, I might as well give it a shot. So this is actually me right here.
So, you thought you would just do this for a little while?
Yeah, I thought I'd do it until I figured out what I really wanted to do in life, and then I really loved it. I loved that it gave me purpose, and I learned that I could do hard things.
What was your job like?
Well, basically, you train to respond to a lot of different emergencies. I mean, obviously there were fires, but we responded to medical calls, we responded to cats inside trees, really a lot of different things that we would have to respond to at any given time.
Were you scared the first time you got called to a fire?
Yeah. Anybody who would tell you they're not is probably lying to you, but we don't do anything in the fire department without learning how to control your emotions first.
Wait, so you trained to be brave?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I mean, we did lots of physical training to make sure we stayed strong, but we also did lots of drills. I mean, drills on top of drills on top of drills to make sure that we were ready for anything we might face.
Okay, so you get a call. What happens?
Well, you really only get a little bit of information to start.
So, what do you do?
So you jump on the truck and you start on your way, and you're constantly getting more information as you go. And then when you get on scene, you're constantly getting more information and you're seeing what's happening in front of you. You really have to learn how to be flexible because things are constantly changing. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds.
Wait, say that again?
Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds.
That's wild.
So, you're there now. What do you do?
Well, you're really just constantly assessing. I mean, you're taking in information as it's changing. Remember, you gotta stay flexible. So you're looking for hydrants. You're wondering if this is gonna be protecting just the structure or if this is gonna be a rescue situation where we might have to rush in and go take care of somebody whose life might be in danger. You really do have to stay on your toes constantly.
What are some things that help you get ready for all that?
Well, one tool is learning how to calm yourself down.
Like, you can just do that?
Absolutely. I learned how to keep myself calm by controlling my breathing so that you can keep yourself focused and keep your mind clear.
Even in a burning building?
Especially inside a burning building.
What's the scariest situation you faced on the job?
Wow, that's a great question. I had lots of scary moments, but I think one that comes to mind is my crew and I arrived on the scene to a smaller house that had a lot of heavy fire and smoke showing from the right side of the house. And so in order to put out a fire, you have to get to the seat of the fire, which is where the fire originated. And when we went inside, we went up the stairs. There was one crew ahead of us, and we had a really hard time getting to the seat of the fire because it continued to be hotter and hotter and hotter. I mean, it's one of the hottest fires I've ever been in my life. But one of the things you want to avoid in a fire situation is if you take too long, because remember, fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. If you take too long, everything can ignite in the room at one time, and that's called a flashover. And that's not a situation that you or I or anybody would ever want to be in. So I remember in that moment, the longer it was taking us to get to the seat of the fire, and as it's getting hotter and hotter, I started looking around for an exit. It's one of the things that they teach you is always have a way out. And so because how scared I was, I could turn over the corner and see the light coming through the front windows. I mean, there's heavy smoke. It's not like it's in the movies. You really can't see anything in front of your face. You just have to look for light. And I knew if I needed to, if we had a flashover situation, I could dive out the window to safety and always have a way to get out.
Wow, Trey, that is incredible.
Thank you, Trey. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Wow. Trey had to dive into some pretty scary situations.
Speaking of scary things, wait until you hear.
The story before the story.
Today, we're in book 17 of the Old Testament, Esther. God made a plan to bless the whole world through Abraham's family, the Israelites.
But over and over, God's people would run to God and then pull away, back and forth, just like a yo-yo. At last, God allowed the Israelites to be captured by foreign nations so they would understand they can only be happy close to God.
Even in captivity, though, some of these men and women still loved and honored God, like a girl named Esther and her cousin Mordecai, which is where our epic story begins.
Take it away!
Years before, the Jewish people had been captured and taken from Jerusalem to Babylon. But then, Babylon was conquered and became part of the Persian Empire, with Susa as its capital. So, Esther grew up in a land that was not her own, and when her parents died, her cousin Mordecai raised her as his own daughter.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your strength.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart.
One day, a new king named Xerxes came to power in Persia, and this guy was a character. He threw a crazy wild party and then fired his own queen for refusing to show up. Not the kind of guy you want running your country. Anyhow, when he finally calmed down, he realized he didn't have a queen anymore, so he decided to look for a new one. After a long search through the entire kingdom, Xerxes chose Esther.
Cousin Mordecai, what do I do?
Don't tell anyone you're from a Jewish family.
We've already seen that Xerxes didn't bother to think much before making decisions, so he chose on a whim to promote an official named Haman to take charge of all the other nobles in the kingdom. Haman had a ginormous ego, and he loved making all the other officials outside the palace bow low to him. But Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, and this made Haman so mad he about went through the roof! Haman was such a terrible guy that he decided not only to punish Mordecai, but every single Jew in the country. He went to King Xerxes with a terrible plan.
Your Majesty, these Jews live differently than everyone else. They don't obey your laws.
Who do they think they are?
I know, right? Give the order to destroy them.
Consider it done.
I can't even. Xerxes actually sent a letter all over the kingdom declaring that on the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews were to be killed. When Mordecai and the other Jews discovered this horrible news, they dressed in rough cloth and wept bitterly. Mordecai sent a message to Esther in the palace, telling her what Haman had done.
You must ask the king to save our people.
Esther was devastated. She sent a response to her cousin.
Tell him, no one can come before the king unless he sends for them. If I do it, I'll die, unless he reaches out his gold scepter to me.
Mordecai sent his answer right back.
You may not escape, even though you are queen. Who knows? It's possible. You became queen for a time just like this.
Esther knew Mordecai was right. She sent him one more message.
Tell Mordecai, gather all the Jews. Don't eat anything for 3 days. I and my servants will fast too. Then I'll go to the king.
Esther faced a terrible dilemma, but she took 3 days to prepare her heart and her mind. Then she went to face the king. It must have taken every ounce of courage Esther had to step through those doors. And then she had to wait what felt like an eternity for the king to even notice her. At last, he looked up. Then he smiled and reached out his golden scepter.
What is it, Queen Esther? I'll give you anything up to half my kingdom.
Esther must have been shaking with relief. But instead of making her request right away, she asked the king to attend a special banquet along with Haman. The king was flattered and curious. At the banquet, he told her once more,
I'll give you anything up to half my kingdom.
I'd like you and Haman to come to another feast tomorrow. Then I'll answer your question.
What? The king was so intrigued, he agreed to come back again. The next night, he and Haman joined Esther at a second festive meal.
What do you want me to do for you? I'll give you up to half my kingdom.
Esther took a deep breath and put it all on the line.
Your Majesty, let me live. Please spare my people. We've been sold to be destroyed.
Who is the man who has dared to do such a thing?
Haman is the one.
Xerxes was so enraged that he had Haman killed. Then the king created a new order that would allow the Jews to be saved.
We will celebrate this day with great joy.
The end.
Wow, King Xerxes was kind of a loose cannon.
Exactly. There was no way to predict what he would do, but Esther leaned into God, and she took a big, courageous step, even though she had no idea what would happen.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, there might be a mean kid at school, someone who's always shoving smaller kids around or making fun of people.
Yeah, and everyone's afraid to stand up to them.
You can ask God for courage to be the one to face the bully and tell them, stop it. That's not okay.
It's also important to let a teacher know what's going on. That takes courage too.
Exactly.
Or maybe you're selling cookies for a fundraiser and you need to ask a neighbor you don't know to buy some. It might feel pretty scary to knock on their door, but you can ask God for courage for that too.
It's true. God never asks us to face tough situations on our own. That's one of the reasons God gave us Jesus. When we believe that Jesus is God's Son and choose to follow him, we have the power of God's Holy Spirit living in us. We can be ready for anything that happens.
And that is super awesome to remember.
So true. All right, I'll see you guys next time.
Bye, Erica. So, here's the thing. You can do what you should, even when you don't know what will happen.
You think I can be a firefighter like Trey?
Absolutely.
Now, where do we keep the hoses?
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.
Turn on the water!
Wait, what?
What does fear feel like to you? Maybe it's butterflies fluttering in your stomach, or it might seem like cold fingers creeping up your spine. Fear can feel like a lump in your throat that makes it hard to swallow. Or it might chase thoughts round and round inside your head, refusing to stop. Enough! When you face something hard, fear can show up in 100 different ways. It can threaten to stop you in your tracks. But you don't have to let fear be the boss of you. When fear shouts, "You can't do it!" stop. Take a deep breath. Listen for that still, quiet voice of God. God says, "Be strong and brave. Do not be afraid. Do not lose hope. I am the Lord your God. I will be with you everywhere you go." When you know that God is with you, you can keep going. You can walk straight through those fears. And when others see you choose to be brave, even when you're afraid, they can see God at work in your life. That's why courage is an amazing way to worship God with your life. Because worship is about more than just singing loud, it's all about living loud.
Here, kitty, 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 kitty. Here, kitty. Come on, kitty. Come on, please. Please come down. Just please come down. My kitty is stuck in a tree. What can I even do? Oh, come on, kitty. I need a hero. I need a hero. Is there a hero out there? I could really use a hero right now. Please, please, someone bring me a hero! John, I need a hero.
Sure.
Thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Steven.
And I'm John.
And welcome to the So-and-So Show.
Steven, if you were a superhero, what do you think your superpower would be?
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, yeah? Easy? Easy? This is not an easy question. Oh, Steven. Okay, what would it be?
Mind reading.
What? No way.
Yeah, definitely.
Why do you think it'd be mind reading?
Well, I'm smart and intuitive. I'm observant of people and like to understand where they're coming from and how they think. Plus, it would definitely be the most powerful superpower.
Mind reading is definitely
not the most powerful superpower? I knew you'd think that.
How did you do that?
Maybe my powers are kicking in.
Well, it is definitely not the most powerful superpower.
Okay then, what is? Super strength?
Did you do that again?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, this just isn't fair. We have to figure out what my power would be.
What do you mean?
Well, it's very obvious what your power would be, or might already be, but we have to find out mine. I have no clue what my superpower would be.
Okay, there are a lot of options. Super strength.
Super speed.
Invisibility.
Flying.
Talking to animals.
Knitting at supersonic speed? What? That would come in very handy.
When?
It's so cold.
See?
Yeah, well, the only way we can see what power you would have is to test them out.
Oh, good idea. I like the way you think.
I know.
Well,
Let's get to it.
No. Kids, don't try this at home.
Ready?
Ready.
On your mark, get set, go! You didn't even... Well, it's not super speed.
Ready. No.
Nope.
Wave your fin if you can hear me. Wave your fin. Swim to the top. Swim.
I've never seen a goldfish do less. Nope.
Okay, am I invisible now?
Nope.
How about now?
Nope.
Let's just checking. No!
It's Bible story time with Kellen.
No! Kellen!
Hey, fellas.
We've been having a super powerful day so far. You think you got a story to match?
Oh, do I think? This story is so super powerful. I mean, wow.
I'm listening.
Great, because it's going to be a big one. In fact, today we're looking at an entire book of the Bible, specifically the book of Esther. That's right. And it looks like I got a little help for today's story.
A little help to go behind the Bible. Esther was an orphan Jewish girl who was raised by her cousin Mordecai in the kingdom of Persia.
You see, the Jewish people had been taken captive by the Babylonians, but later the Babylonians were defeated by the Persians. So that's who was in charge in Esther's day.
And the king of Persia was King Xerxes.
Yeah, I love being king. You know, it's just the best. I can do whatever I want, like throw amazing parties, which I have.
Over here. Yeah, just to be clear, that's not the real King Xerxes. All those people lived a long time ago, way before cameras were invented.
Kellen?
Yes?
You're interrupting the Bible story. Can we continue?
Oh, sure, of course.
Thanks.
One party in particular was pretty significant. Life-changing, actually. My queen at the time, Vashti. She wouldn't come to my party when I commanded her, so I was like, you can't disrespect me. I'm the king. Took away her crown. After that, I needed to find a new queen.
The king sent out a search for the most beautiful women in the kingdom, and Esther was picked as one of them. They went through a whole year of beauty treatments at the palace, and at the end of the year, the king chose Esther to be his queen.
It was pretty wild. I mean, the queen of Persia? Upgrade. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I knew God was with me, but I didn't tell anybody there that I was Jewish. No.
After some time, the king appointed a man named Haman to be in charge of all the nobles in his kingdom.
That's right. And Haman was very proud of himself. Maybe a little too proud. He wanted everyone to fall on their knees when he walked by. But Esther's cousin Mordecai refused to bow.
Haman was obsessed with himself. But I wouldn't bow because I know who my God is, the one true God. And I wasn't going to worship anyone else. But Haman really didn't like that. And when he found out I was Jewish, well, he decided he would take out his anger on all the Jews.
Haman came up to me, and he was upset. He said, King, there's a whole group of people who don't obey you. They live differently than everyone else. And I was like, what? I cannot have that. So I gave him my ring and my royal seal on it, and I told him to do whatever he wanted with those people.
Haman ordered for every Jew in every territory of the kingdom to be killed. Talk about an evil dude. It was not good. Letters were sent all over the kingdom that on the 13th day of the 12th month, they were to kill every single Jewish person.
It was the most devastating time I ever faced. All the other Jews and I tore our clothes and wore rough cloths. We cried for days. I knew I had to talk to Esther.
Mordecai wanted me to do something about it, but I felt like there was nothing I could do. No one was allowed to come before the king unless he sent for them. If I went to the king without being sent for, and if he didn't hold out his golden scepter to me, then I would be killed.
I knew it wasn't easy, but I told Esther, don't think just because you live in the king's palace that you will be the only Jew who escapes. If you don't say anything, then help for the Jews will come from another place. But who knows? It's possible that you became queen for a time just like this.
Esther told Mordecai to gather all the Jews in the area and to go 3 days without eating. She and her attendants fasted for 3 days as well.
I told Mordecai I would go to the king at the end of the 3 days. Even though it was against the law, I realized it was what I had to do. Mordecai was right. What if I had become queen for this moment? I would risk my life to save my people. And if I died, then I died. That's how I saw it.
Esther came into my throne room. It was a bit of a surprise since I hadn't called for her, but I was pleased to see her. So
I don't even have the words to describe the relief I felt. I just remember thinking, I'm not getting killed. Okay, I am not getting killed! And then I remembered that I actually needed to start moving my feet and walk to him so I could do what I came there to do.
when I saw her come in, I offered Esther anything she wanted, up to half my kingdom. Whoo! She just invited me and Haman, my right-hand man, to come to a feast that she would prepare. So I was pretty intrigued. And you know I like a good feast.
The following evening, the king and Haman went to the feast Esther prepared. While they were at the feast, the king asked Esther again what she desired.
That was my chance. I asked him to spare my people. I told him that my people and I had been sold to be killed and wiped out.
I was livid when I heard that. I said to her, who is a man who has dared to do such a thing? And where is he? I was not expecting what she said next.
Esther told the king that Haman was the man who had given the order. The king was very angry. He had Haman taken away right then and put to death. King Xerxes put out a new order to save the Jews so that they would not be killed.
I was really proud of Esther. She was brave and selfless. She risked her life to save our people. She remembered the ways of God that I taught her. To be loving and courageous, that was beautiful. We were also excited and relieved.
Yes, it was amazing. We sent news out to all the Jews and everyone celebrated. Everyone was just so filled with joy.
Esther risked her life to save her people. She stood up for what was right and trusted God, even though she didn't know how it was going to turn out.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
But I can say this better. This has been Behind the Bible.
Whoa, Esther was so brave.
Yeah. God was with her, and God is with us too. So we can be brave just like Esther, even if it's not in life-threatening situations.
I feel more courageous than ever. Thanks, Kellen.
You bet. See ya.
Well, it looks like we're getting close to the end. Can you guess what I'm thinking now?
You're thinking ham sandwich.
How did you?
Reveal the question!
Oh, when have you done something you were afraid to do?
Maybe you stood up for someone like Esther did, not knowing what other people would think of you.
Yeah, or maybe you tried a new sport or shared a piece of art you made and it felt scary because you didn't know how people would like it.
Right, and there are times every day that we're faced with something that we might be afraid of.
Yeah, but it's important to remember that we can still choose to be brave, trust God, and do what's right. Hey, maybe that's my superpower. Yes, yeah, choosing what's right no matter what the situation.
Yeah, if people did that, anyone could be a superhero.
Yes, I'm Justice John.
And I'm Cerebral Steven. No, wait. Steven the Smarty Pants Steven. Smarty Pants Stevie Pants. No, Smart Pant. Maybe it's just one
this
pant.
This has been the So-and-So Show.
What if it's just one pant? Thinking
what
man's...
What if it's my pants?
John's pants, Steven's pants. No.
Smarty John Stevens pants.
Yes! Ha! King of Hearts. I know.
How are you doing this?
Well, normally a mind reader never reveals his tricks, but long story short, I'm reading your mind, John.
All right, try this. Mm-hmm.
Ace of clubs. 6 of diamonds. 3 of clubs.
Yep.
Joker? Huh! I mean, I've been getting it the whole time. but this time I really got it. You know.
I'm glad I put this mirror here because now I can sulk in it.
I did it.
Everything keeps telling me to quit and not go where I'm going. But I'm never ever gonna stop, and there's no signs of slowing. Ooh, now moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. I'm committed to your plan, so I'll follow all of my days. Every day you give me strength to follow after your way. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, you give me the power. Ooh, now moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, God gives me the power. You give me the power.
This has been such a fun month with you guys. Tune in next week to find out what our next series is all about. See you later, Brave Kids!